Outposts are the ways in which settlers expand into Palestinian territory. Here's how it works. Holy, that is so crazy.
The fighting in Gaza is having a devastating side effect on some Palestinian communities in the West Bank. Activists say dozens of new Israeli outposts have sprung up across the territory since the war in Gaza began. As CNN's Nada Bashir reports, many Palestinians now believe they have only one option left: to move.
For decades, Palestinian shepherds have faced threats and violence at the hands of Israeli settlers. Dozens of rural farms like this one have already been abandoned as a result. But such violence is only increasing. This is just one of several incidents documented by Israeli NGO B'Tselem over recent months. The organization says dozens of settlers descended on the occupied West Bank.
Yeah, now we're moving on to the other side. The Israeli apartheid and what it looks like to live under the Israeli apartheid in the West Bank. When you look at Gaza, that's what a genocide looks like. When you look at the West Bank, that's what pogroms under an apartheid looks like. This is a systematized version of violence that is outsourced to the most rabid fucking psychopaths that you have ever seen. It's as though the American government is working side by side with the Klan in the Reconstruction to dominate the newly freed black men and women.
Village of El Mania in mid-February, attacking homes, farming equipment, and even residents.
Yeah, Palestinians leave as Israeli outposts spring up is such a disgusting way to approach the subject matter. No, Palestinians are being forcibly removed from their land illegally by rabid terrorists who are backed by the government. That's what's going on. They're not leaving. They're not voluntarily leaving. They are experiencing pogroms, okay? They're experiencing ethnic cleansing. I don't have any sympathy for anyone that doesn't recognize this. The funny thing is, when I went with political activists to the West Bank, they denied our entry of 300 people. While settlers killed Palestinians there, we aren't allowed to come and see. Yes. And of course, the Israeli... It's not just that either. Israel settlers from margins of the mainstream, the listening post. This is, for the record, why I appreciate the activists that still, regardless of whatever their fucking opinion is on Israel, the Israeli Jewish activists that put their bodies in front of this process, I still think are important, okay? Like, if they're saving one Palestinian family, that's still good. You just got to work with who you have. You got to work with the tools at your disposal.
While Israeli police forces demolished the outpost established in the village by settlers, B'Tselem says the outpost was later rebuilt that same day. Dozens of Palestinian herding communities have been impacted by the spread of outposts like this one, essentially undefined settlements, usually made up of small structures or caravans. Israeli anti-settlement watchdogs Peace Now and Kerem Navot say at least 49 outposts were established in the months following the October 7th attacks, an increase of nearly 50% since the beginning of the war in Gaza. As of last December, the groups estimate that herding outposts covered almost 14% of the occupied West Bank. That's an area of land roughly twice the size of Gaza. And that's in addition to approximately 150 officially recognized settlements that have already been...
I really care about Palestine, and I hope you cover it a lot, but every time I click on your channel, it's so off and on. It's important, and there's a lot of other important things too. Maybe I'm just unlucky when I click here. Yes, because I don't just cover the Israeli government's actions in Palestine. I'm live for 8 fucking hours a day. If you think that this is the only thing that I cover, you're wrong.
Bank. Both outposts and settlements are considered illegal under international law. Satellite imagery analysed by CNN shows how rapidly herding outposts have spread, as well as the gradual development of new roads connecting the outposts to established settlements, And in
What are outposts? Tents? No, outposts are the ways in which settlers expand into Palestinian territory. Here's how it works. You go and you mark a house, oftentimes with the Star of David, okay? That means that that house that has Palestinian people living in it needs to be evacuated immediately. Otherwise, they will die. And sometimes they do die. They go in, they burn the house down with Molotov cocktails, they beat the shit out of people, they oftentimes have guns, they shoot at the houses, they shoot at the Palestinians that are living in their own homes in the West Bank. Then the Israeli occupying force comes in. The Israeli occupying force doesn't come in to stop the settlers. The Israeli occupying force, as a matter of fact, comes in and militarily defends the settlements. Okay? In the aftermath of that process, once they've successfully ethnically cleansed the Palestinians from that land, they build outposts. Outposts is a militarized version of a home. The reason for why they build these outposts is to segment off different areas of Palestinian land from one another. Because once you build those outposts, then the Israeli government comes in and builds roads that Palestinians can't drive on. Remember, this is their own land, internationally recognized as occupied Palestinian territory, illegally occupied by the Israeli government. So they build compounds that cut across Palestinian land deliberately, and then they build roads across Palestinian land deliberately, and then they don't fucking let the Palestinians drive on those roads. All of this is done in an effort to trap Palestinians into Bantustans. A similar concept that existed in South Africa as well during the South African apartheid. Every step of the process, the Israeli government militarily protects the settlers engaging in this act of terrorism. Because the Israeli government itself is a terrorist government. The Israeli government itself is a fascist government. Yeah, outposts are built to envelope Palestinian lands in the same way it was done to Gaza, hence the name the Gaza envelope. Yes, the Gaza envelope is the kibbutzim that are the first line of defense surrounding the Gaza Strip.
In some cases, cutting Palestinians off from the land that they depend on. In the northern village of El Farisiya, the local farming community has now been almost entirely depopulated. Back in February, we met the Daraghma family, at the time still desperately clinging on to their land. These hills are full of areas for our animals to feed, but now there are settlers over here, over there, and another one over there. We can't access these areas, Ahmed says. The settlers
I truly don't know what to say to my coworker who says B'Tselem and the other human rights watch organizations are anti-Semitic. Is your coworker Jewish even? Like, Jewish or not, doesn't really matter. They're fucking delusional and they're a fascist. But it is pretty funny because I hear this a lot from people who aren't even Jewish, where they just like think that they know more about Judaism than fucking actual Jews. They know more about Israel than Israelis. They know more about Jews than Jews themselves. They feel so confident in saying, well, you're not a real Jew. There's nothing funnier than entertaining the hubris of ultra-Zionist Gentiles who think that they literally are more Jewish than Jewish people, you know, because they're more pro-Israel than Jewish people. Yes, he's an Israeli who works for the... Dog, he works at Elbit. Like, wait, what? Yeah, no shit. And if he's a coworker, you work there too. You should probably fucking quit your job if you work there. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, no shit. He says B'Tselem is fucking anti-Semitic. And Human Rights Watch is anti-Semitic. He's like, hey man, can you please do something about my coworker who is supporting the Nazi government and keeps and is a part of a weapons manufacturing facilities. He works at Mercedes. My coworker that works at Mercedes in the Nazi government is saying that the German communist movement comprised of Gentile Germans that are resisting against the Nazi government are actually anti-Volk. They're anti-Nazi and it's fucked up. Yeah, no shit, dude. You're at the baby killing factory directly for the baby killing government. You know, Elbit Systems is a Israeli weapons manufacturer.
Settlers come to scare our sheep and frighten our children. We've had to stop going up on the hills with our sheep, fearing they will come after us. Ahmed's family says they have lived here for generations. The land, not only their home, but also their livelihood. We've always lived here, Hussein says. Our whole lives are here. Where else can we go? Since filming, members of the Daragma family told CNN they were left with no choice but to abandon their homes. Acts of violence by settlers from nearby outposts simply too much to bear. Activists say outposts like those around the village of Al Farisiya are established with the purpose of laying claim to Palestinian land and pressuring Palestinian communities to flee. Through threats, physical violence, and direct attacks on resources, including livestock and farming equipment, often with the protection from both the military and the state. CNN has reached out to the Israeli government about allegations of its support for illegal outposts, but has not received a response. The Israeli military told CNN that it condemns violence in any form and that police are tasked with handling any Israeli violations of the law. When asked about new roads we saw being developed around another nearby village, the IDF said the land had been seized for, quote, operational needs, adding that the route is intended for use by security forces and that it has been developed in accordance with military orders.
It's important to understand that this project, this herding outpost campaign, or this project is a national project, it's a state project. This is not a project which is initiated by individuals. It's a project which the state of Israel is standing behind it, it's budgeting, is facilitating, is protecting it.
The Ministry of Settlements, for example, has budgeted for outposts which it calls young settlements, previously saying funds were carried out in accordance with all laws. But the displacement of Palestinian herding communities is just one part of a deepening crisis in the West Bank. The UN says more than 40,000 Palestinians have been forced from their homes since February by an expanding Israeli military operation, with Israel's defense minister calling on the military to prevent the return of those displaced, stoking fears around the potential for a full annexation of the territory and crushing hopes for a pathway to a viable Palestinian state. Neda Bashir, CNN, in the occupied West Bank.
God damn, dude. Holy shit.